Well, actually, this is as real as it gets.
This is Phoebe Price, and you're listening to the UCW Radio Show. In your face.
The number you have reached, 911, has been changed to a non-published number.
You're listening to UCW Radio. In your face.
All right, welcome to another segment of the UCW Radio Show. Today we have a great guest on tap for you. He's a Wall Street Journal staff reporter. His background is pretty eclectic, from being an author, a contributor to CNBC, and he's also a singer-songwriter. His background is pretty intense, and he's bringing a lot of what he believes in to his own environment. All right, he also interviews a lot of top celebrities, sports stars and entertainers, so on and so forth, and kind of telling a story that you really don't hear a lot. Beyond, he tells a story beyond the sound bites. Okay, but again, he's on deck. He's waiting to come on the show. So let's not have him waiting too long. All right, here we go. Well, let's bring Lee Hawkins, Wall Street Journal staff reporter, singer-songwriter. Again, without further ado, let's just bring him on the UCW Radio Show. All right, Lee, welcome to the UCW Radio Show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm actually excited to have you on the show. Your background's pretty interesting.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. I try not to be one-dimensional.
Yeah, no, you're definitely not one-dimensional. Wall Street Journal staff reporter. You're an author, CNBC contributor, and you're a recording artist / songwriter. To the point that you were a grand prize winner, from what I understand.
Yes, in the R&B category, I did win it for a song called I Love You Woman. I've really been interested in music my whole life. I grew up in the church, and my family sings gospel music, and so I grew up playing drums behind my father and singing in the choir, and it really kind of stayed with me for the rest, into my adult life.
Well, and you did well with it, because winning that, being a grand prize winner for that John Lennon songwriting contest is no easy task.
It's not. I was away from music for a while, because I was covering. I was working in Milwaukee, and I was doing a lot of live performances. I was singing at the Milwaukee Brewers games and the Milwaukee Bucks games and Summerfest World Music Festival, and I had a band and just a lot of momentum. And then I got a job with the Journal, and I moved to Detroit to cover the auto companies. Mm-hmm. And when I did, everything just kind of, because I was so busy with that, I didn't get to make music as much. And finally, I joined the church choir, and that kind of helped me with the music bug and everything. But it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I started writing more music with my songwriting partner, George Nash Jr., who is also the producer for an R&B singer named Eric Benet.
Okay.
So that song, I Love You Woman, was one of 12 songs that we had written. And after I won the John Lennon songwriting contest, we decided to release an album on iTunes called Midnight Conversation.
Okay.
So, just so people could check out the music. A lot of it is love songs, and you just don't hear love songs anymore. So I figured, hey, why not put some out there?
Yeah, you don't hear the love songs you used to hear in the 70s, that's for sure.
Even the 90s. I mean, I've interviewed a lot of people in music, and the ones that I really enjoy the most are the songwriters. I've interviewed Diane Warren, and I've interviewed Holland Dozier Holland, who were the guys that wrote all the hits for the Motown era people. And what's fascinating about all of those people is they say that music works in cycles. Right now, dance music is really the phenomenon, but a lot of these people, Lionel Richie included, believe that love songs will come back. There's a place for them in TV and film, but also on the radio.
Oh, no, but without a doubt, there's a place for them. I guess like everything else, you have a cycle. Business cycle, music cycle. Things just change as time goes on. But you that things definitely cycle on. So yeah, you're right about that. Let me ask you something, Lee. Now, and I guess our listeners would want to know this. Now, again, with all the stuff you're doing now, I want to kind of like reel back a little bit. How did you get involved in journalism? How did everything start for you?
Oh, that's kind of a cool story. When I was young, I was in like student council and everything, and I was really interested in politics, and more than politics, I was more interested in civil rights. And I was class president like all 4 years in high school. And then in college, I was involved in student government. But then one of the things I would do on the side is I would write these articles for the school newspaper, and they were kind enough to accept them. And they were usually opinion articles. They were highly opinionated. They were, looking back now to read some of them, it's almost embarrassing because they weren't very good. But but I cared a lot, and I was very passionate. And after I did a couple of those, the newspaper guys invited me to be on their editorial board and to get more active in the newspaper while I was in college at the University of Wisconsin. So when I did that, then I started kind of writing these op-ed pieces for different places. I think I wrote one for the Dallas Morning News. I wrote one for the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel. And over time, I was able to get myself a job at the Wisconsin State Journal, a paper in Madison, Wisconsin, where I attended college. And I started there, and I just kind of moved up to the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, and then I got recruited to the Wisconsin State Journal. But newspaper, I never majored in journalism. I majored in political science because I thought I was going to be a politician. But one thing about when you're a journalist and you get an inside look at the life of a politician, it's pretty fascinating because I knew in a minute that I would never want to be a politician just from covering politicians.
The reality set in, huh?
Yeah, and I think it was because, I realized that I wasn't cut out for, being always working for everybody and feeling that, if you're a public servant, then that means that when you're sitting down at a restaurant with your family, that means that anybody can come up and talk to you.
True.
And you know what? I'm not that kind of guy. So, I care about issues, and the issues that I care about, I'll be active in. But I just didn't think that I had it in me to be that person.
Yeah, well,
when your whole life was a fishbowl,
Well, any public figure, politician, actor, musician, when you're out there in the public eye, people they think that they're a part of you, that they can actually sit down and talk to you at any time they want.
And you know what? I actually don't mind that. I was talking to a good friend of mine who's a journalist on Fox, and he said this guy came up to him at the airport, and he said, "Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't mean to inconvenience you, but I just wanted to say hello because I watch you all the time." And he said, "Oh, no, we love it. We want you to recognize us." And it's funny, being recognized and talking to people that are engaged in your work is really cool. So it's not that I don't like the public life. It's just that I didn't feel that I would be doing the public a service because I don't always feel like that I would be working 100 hours a week or whatever, on public issues and policy. I just didn't think I was cut out for that aspect of it.
Yeah, well, you're definitely cut out for what you're doing now. You're very successful at it. You are. You went again from doing the journalism in Wisconsin. How did you get to the Wall Street Journal?
Well, like I said, I was at those other two papers. In both papers, I was covering business. And when you cover business, you're really judged on the kinds of stories that you're able to break and I was fortunate to have people that took time to teach me. The Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, when I was a young reporter, had all of these talented people. As a matter of fact, they won like 3 Pulitzer Prizes in the past 5 years. And, so I learned from them, and then I got the opportunity to continue going. One thing that I will tell you is that learning to cover these publicly traded companies has really helped me in my job now. Because in my job now, I actually have this new niche called the business of celebrity. Mm-hmm. And what I do, my theory and my concept is that a lot of these celebrities in this economy, in the pop culture economy, are businesses. Mm-hmm. People laugh at the Kardashians, but the reality is the Kardashians are a thriving business. Paris Hilton is for all the people that think that she doesn't do anything. She grosses $90 million in wholesale revenues on her perfume brand alone every year. And she gets a 7% licensing fee from that. So what I do is I study the people that work behind these people. I spend a lot of time with them. I get a good understanding of the business. And then I sit down and I interview the actual people. Mm-hmm. My next one comes out tonight, and it's with Dana White and Lorenzo Fertitta, who are the founders or the guys who bought UFC, the Ultimate Fighting Championship, out of bankruptcy. Yep. And what a fascinating group of guys they are.
Yeah, they took UFC, was in bankruptcy. I think Semaphore Entertainment owned it, and they took it over and they changed the culture. They changed they created a sector of sports for all intents and purposes.
Right, and the storyline is, no different really than any other company. So, like, if you cover General Motors, you still want to tell the anecdotes about the drama in the boardroom and the people that are working on the front lines in the union or working in China in a factory. Well, when you apply that stuff to celebrities, there are great anecdotes, too, about people like 50 Cent, who was able to ask Vitamin Water for stock instead of just cash when they asked him to endorse one of their flavors. And when that company was bought out by Coca-Cola, it's reported that he got a $100 million windfall based on the stock alone. Mm-hmm. And so this is a business person too. And what I try to do is to show the work ethic and some of these celebrities that have been successful and then others who haven't been so successful in business, and also taking time to speak to people like Michael Vick, who has had his brand challenged about his attempt to try to bring his brand back.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm happy you're doing that, actually, because I think a lot of people, they see these figures in the public eye. Again, you said the Kardashians, Paris Hilton, Michael Vick, whoever it may be. Yeah, they're their own brands. And I think one of they follow in suit with Trump. Donald Trump is a brand. And he's the greatest example of success, I think, in my opinion, in regards to branding yourself and putting your name on everything and making money off of it.
Yeah, you're right. And what's great about that, you raised a very good point about Donald Trump, because Donald Trump is not an actor, he's not an athlete, he's a businessman, and there are a lot of us out here that have brands. And you have to really protect your brand. No matter what you're doing, you can be an accountant, you can be have any job, but the perception is, they always say it's not what you know, it's who you know. Mm-hmm. But I'll take that a step further and I'll say it's actually who knows you and what they say about you. Oh. Because 9 out of 10 times when you're going for a job or even if someone is just asking, hey, what do you think of him? That perception that people have could affect your opportunities. Mm-hmm. That doesn't mean that you worry about what people think about you, but in a professional capacity, you should always think, what is the brand that I want to represent when I go to school every day? Mm-hmm. What is the brand I want to represent when I walk into my office every day? And at the end of the day, when I leave this earth, what can I really say that I was able to accomplish, not just for myself, but for other people?
Mm-hmm. No, those are good points for sure, and I think it's just an adjustment of our thinking.
It is, and I'm blessed to be in a field where, like in journalism, you can, I still am one of these people that really believes in it, and I think that we can expose the truth in so many cases. The Trayvon Martin story, that was a story that really didn't break until weeks after the actual incident occurred, but there were reporters that went out there and broke the story. Now, we don't know what the ultimate outcome will be of that case, but it is something, no matter what side of the issue that you're on, that you want to know about and you want that information. And so the reporters involved in that story will never forget when they retire at their retirement party, that's what people are going to say. This person was intimately involved in the Trayvon Martin story and helped the public get information.
And that's a key thing, help. A lot of people look at reporters and they say, well, they're just reporting the tragedy and everything else. But the reality is you're providing a platform where someone's story can be told.
It's one of the things that when you have any level of influence in society or you're in a position to influence society, it's really important to take your job really seriously and to have some level of compassion in doing it and sensitivity around, am I really treating everybody fairly in the way that I approach this story? Because you can do a lot of damage if your facts aren't straight. I see it. I think even in the Trayvon Martin story, there were some wrong facts that went out there. And when that happens, you lose the public's confidence.
I mean, do you think that comes from, just someone just trying to get a story out there as soon as possible without confirming facts and just trying to beat the other guy to the story?
I think that, it is a hyper-competitive business. Some of it can sometimes be that. You never know why people make mistakes. I'll tell you, in a newspaper, if you're reading the newspaper and you see a correction, that means that is a big issue in that newsroom. A correction, if you ever make a mistake, it's not something that you should really take lightly. Some people you've seen that have had these long corrections, and you really think about, well, what was that person thinking that day? But the reality is that as long as you take errors, because we all make errors, but as long as you really have a great deal of sensitivity towards that and look at it as a serious thing when you make an error, you won't make them. You won't make them as much because you'll realize that you have so much influence and that it's a responsibility, and that we went to school or we were trained in order to avoid those things.
But they do happen because we are human.
They do happen. I think, in my opinion, coming from a newspaper background, I still believe that even though we've moved into a multimedia culture, I still have a lot of confidence in the things that I read in newspapers. I think that newspapers still are, the source of people that have been rooted in the traditional training, which is a universal concept of, fair reporting and everything. And I think newspapers are still doing it. I think the pressure to expand has really, forced newspapers to figure out ways to get into online and digital and video and all of these things on a limited budget. And when that happens, you don't have the resources to make, all of the right investments that you want to make. But what's great about it is that a lot of the newspapers, including the Wall Street Journal, have moved into these new areas and been, on the forefront of trying to say, look, this is the way that our readers want their information now. If we can tell the story via a video too, let's do that. develop some products for the iPad. Let's give people information over the mobile platform. And that's really what the future might look like. As long as we keep our core values and we still approach our job in the same way that we approached it when we were just a newspaper, we'll be fine.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, keeping to your core values and core business. You can expand and you can grow organically and you can adhere to the digital age, but you kind of have to stick to your your roots in order to keep the confidence of the masses. And that's my opinion.
Right. Yeah, I think you're right. And we have to really, what I try to do is, what's cool about my job is I'm able to meet so many people. I love people. And I specifically like to talk to young people. I like to find out what they're listening to. I like to find out how they consume their information. And, one of the things, the helpful things about that is they are so plugged into social media, and they know, the most recent trends and development in the context of social media. And for me, in the past 2 years, social media has become like a really important aspect of my job. It's funny because I met you on Facebook.
Right.
And so, getting those videos out there to a public that has demonstrated already that they're interested in the content that I provide is a big part of my job. And young people like the rapper Soulja Boy, who was one of these guys who was living down south and just started making videos at home and making little music videos and then putting them up on YouTube and seeing them over time explode into, 30,000 views, 40,000 views. He made himself a celebrity based on social media. So when you talk to him, it's really fascinating because he's almost like an internet consultant. He never went to college or anything like that. He's a young guy. He's like 21, and he's been a star since he was 16. But when you talk to him about social media, he is very savvy, more savvy than a lot of the executives that you come across. A lot of it is because he is a young person, and he's in touch with young people who are more open to and have more time on their hands to actually explore new technology.
Well, can I ask your opinion, Lee? Now, you talked about Soulja Boy. Now, when MC Hammer, when he came out, he was doing. He didn't have the social media and the Twitter and the Facebook and everything else, but he was actually self-promoting. He was selling CDs out of the back of his trunk and so on and so forth. Do you think because of the social media and the Facebooks, the Twitters and everything, it's giving, artists an opportunity to actually go out there and, reach such a vast group of people that they can, be self-made stars?
Yeah, no, you're so right about that. That's what's cool about it because it says a lot about kind of the record companies, too, because the record companies aren't taking chances. They rarely take chances on people based on their talent. They don't walk into a bar or a club and say, wow, this guy's really talented, and then the next day this person is signed to a big record deal. That's a thing of the past. What happens now is people build these big platforms on YouTube, and they use that to leverage sales on iTunes, and they're able to establish over a certain period of time that they can sell records, and then that's when the record companies come. That's why you see record companies that are much more inclined to sign someone that's been on the show X Factor or American Idol, because they know that person has a built-in audience. You can look at YouTube and you can see that there are lots of bands that really don't need a record company. They're going to continue to sell music with or without them. There are people that have shows on YouTube that really don't need a television show because they're able to make revenues and advertising revenues and payments from YouTube based on their performance. So I think the web is this incredible, has had this incredible effect of democratization. It's leveled the playing field to a certain extent for the edgy people and the people that are in touch with what's happening culturally. And you can spend a whole bunch of money. You can be the biggest company, a Fortune 100 company, and spend tons of money to make things go viral on the internet and things. But if you're not in touch with the people and what the people want, you might get beat by some kids playing music out of their garage just because they're in touch with the people.
Yeah, like I remember years ago, you had artists out there, singers, whatever the case may be. They were like, "Oh my God, I hope someone signs us to a record deal." And I think now it's like, well, there is no record. We don't care. We're doing what we're doing because we can get ourselves out there our way.
Yeah, right. But what's funny about it is that a lot of the young people have not made the connection between becoming a star and the value of your education.
Right.
Because it requires, most of the celebrities that I interview are really smart when you really sit down and talk to them. It's very difficult to make it if you don't have a marketing mind. You have to have some level of savvy. You have to be organized because you don't have a manager or a record company that's doing all of these things for you. So you have to think in a very strategic way about how you're going to position yourself for the public to consume your music or consume your personality. And a lot of times studying and going to school and studying marketing and being around other students and things like that, that all helps. Because once you get to that level, you want to be able to handle it and to feel like you're a person that, for me, like I it took me a while to realize this, but like school is just one of those things. Yes, of course you learn math and science and English, but you also learn how to start something and finish it and to meet a deadline and being on time. And isn't that fundamentally what we all have to do in the real world? And if we're celebrities and you have an interview with Lee Hawkins and you show up and you show up 2 hours late, well, my staff might not even have time to accommodate you because we have some business leader here that has an interview. And so I've seen these opportunities squandered a lot of times by celebrities because they don't think of them, some of them don't think of themselves as business people. The people that are the most successful as superstars are A, very good business people, and B, they are very humble and they're accessible. The people who, you might be interviewing them and the publicist might say, we have one more question. And then that person will interrupt and say, you know what, I have time for one more. And there are people like that. I'll tell you a couple of the people that have really impressed me over the years as celebrities. I mentioned 50 Cent. 50 Cent is somebody who's really evolved over the years. Don't you remember he was known as somebody that was shot 9 times, and he was this almost a threatening figure in the public eye?
Right.
And then over time, he evolved. He did these business deals, and he got wealthy, and he got to a place where he was thinking, I have all of these things, but I haven't necessarily contributed as much as I want back, and if I don't do that, I'm not going to feel good about myself. And so now he's working with the United Nations to try to feed 1 billion kids in Africa.
Yep.
And, whether he accomplishes it or not, wow, what a great thing to do. Another person is Garth Brooks. I sent a request for Garth Brooks for an interview, and he actually wasn't in the place in his career at that point where he was like giving interviews. This was about 3 weeks ago where he just said, you know what? But he took time to read that request, and his publicist responded and said, we want you to keep on checking in. It wasn't a thing where they just wrote me off. It was a thing where they said, hey, you know what, Lee, we're engaged with you. We know what it is that you do. And, hey, Garth does want to do something with you at some point. And I think people that are in control of their business and not just listening to what everybody's telling them, but actually saying, hey, this reporter wants to interview me. Let's see who this person is at Billboard. Let's see who this guy guy is over at New York Times. And to actually be engaged in the decisions, those are the people that make themselves stars. Lady Gaga is another one. She's a very, very smart person.
I was gonna say that. She's probably on. She's up there for sure.
I do think that there's a point, however, that some of these people get so big. In Lady Gaga's case, when I interviewed her, I do believe that there was a nervousness about. She was very cautious about the information that she shared or the answers that she gave to the questions because of the fact that she is such an uber star and celebrity, and she's been burned in the past by the press. And as a result of that, she was very kind of guarded at some points of the interview.
And do you? I mean, I can see why she would be, because if you are talking to someone in the media and they're twisting your words, or they're not asking you questions or guiding you in the right direction to really get the true information out, and they just want to get what they want out of it. I can see that being problematic for someone.
Yeah, as we discussed earlier, if you're a journalist, you don't have an obligation to report all positive things about people. As a matter of fact, you'll never get respect even from that person if you just report all positive things and you ignore other things. But what everybody deserves, and this is what I try to give everybody, an opportunity to tell their side of the story.
Right.
So, and I don't think everybody always does that, in the tabloid culture. That's not, you don't even really get a lot of time in those kinds of interviews. But that's why I like to do the long interviews. If you look at some of my interviews, they tend to be 10 or 15 minutes, and you give people a chance to speak, One of the things that's been used against me, or that's been a knock against me, and also I've been praised for, is that I'm a low-key guy. And when I do these interviews, I actually listen to what people say, and I think before I speak. I'm not coming out with a lot of energy all of the time. I'm trying to get people to really give me candid answers. So when you ask a Michael Vick, are you really, do you regret the fact that you had to go to jail? And he actually told me, no, I actually believe that it was something that I needed to do because it made me a new person. And then I asked him, really, are you serious? Wouldn't you take it back if you could? And he said, no, I wouldn't. And so, but giving people a chance to talk instead of cutting them off, and to tell their side of the story instead of jumping to immediate judgment is what I try to do with celebrities, because so few of them are really ever given that opportunity. And a lot of times when they get that opportunity, they're really afraid to take it because they don't trust the media.
Well, I mean, I think them going on your show and how you handle things, I think more and more they're going to understand going on your show is the opportunity that they need.
Well, I hope you're right. I really don't have a show yet. I just, my show, my videos appear on the WSJ.com website and on YouTube. We have a channel on YouTube, and we also have WSJ Live. But I think, I do hope and pray that a show is in my future, because I really enjoy this work. I don't see anybody else doing it either, but I also, just enjoy, like I said, I enjoy people, and I really want that platform, and to give people a platform to really get into not just about being a singer or being a baseball player, but what about some of the backstories? I mean, people are fascinating. Celebrities, when you really look at them and you ask them about their families and things like that, one guy, I'll just share one story. There was a baseball player named Torrey Hunter. He plays for the Anaheim Angels. And I met him a few years ago when I did a documentary. And in that interview, we were at his house, and I asked him how many brothers he had, how many siblings he had, and he said he had 3 brothers. Well, I interviewed him maybe about a year later, and I said, oh, how are your brothers? You have 3 brothers. And he said, well, guess what? I actually have 4. I found out on Christmas Day that my father, he told us that he found out that he had a son that he didn't know about. And so at Christmas dinner, his father pulls out a picture of this kid that lived in his neighborhood, not too far where they grew up, but he was younger, and they never really knew this kid existed. Well, fast forward all of these years, this kid was a track star and had no idea where he got his athletic ability because he didn't know who his father was. But at the end of the day, it came out that Torrey Hunter's father, of course, was a decorated athlete, but he ended up going into the Vietnam War. But and that kind of ended his athletic career. But Torrey went on to play Major League Baseball, and this kid, guess what? He went to West Point Academy and was on the track team and set an indoor track record.
Wow.
And then he went and served in Iraq. So what are the chances of a guy being a Major League Baseball player and also having a brother that attends West Point Academy? From where they grew up in Arkansas, a very tough neighborhood, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, that was, those were really difficult odds. But what was great about it is I got the chance to go and interview both Torrey Hunter and to attend his brother's graduation and to be there with his father, with the kid's real father and real mother, and to be able to see them see their son graduate from West Point Academy. And the positive example that sets for all kids, but also especially African-American kids. And that, those are the kinds of stories that I want to tell about athletes. I want to get beneath the surface into their humanity as people and how they're affected by sudden fame and sudden wealth as young people. I mean, think about the experience, of being 23 years old and knowing, when you sit down with Lee Hawkins and you're knowing in the back of your mind that tomorrow you're going to go in the first round of the NFL draft. And your life will never be the same financially.
It's heavy stuff.
It is. I mean, when you look at these guys, they come in and they want to put off this feeling of overconfidence. But a lot of them, you can tell they're actually real nervous about what they're going into, because you can read about that experience, but you never really know what it's like until you're living it.
No, I mean, you bring, as you said, you bring that humanity, you bring it out, and you bring that, because they're real people. And, I mean, you're telling that story, and I think that is what inspires people.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it does. There are the people that are really interested in, who someone's dating or, those kinds of gossipy type things. And I just leave that to those people that really want to report on that. But for me, I think, there's a guy, John Jones, who's the face of the Ultimate Fighting. And this guy has two brothers that are actually playing in the NFL. What are the odds of that? And, to think about the camaraderie between those brothers, and if they worked out together and pushed each other hard to be athletes, and were their parents athletes. And, those kinds of things are pretty cool too. I mean, those are the stories. There's a place for every journalist, and I think that it's important for you to find where you excel. And for me, it's interesting that I have a love for music, because when I listen to the music of a lot of the people I interview, I really listen to it both as a journalist and a musician, and I'm able to relate to them and ask questions that I really took time to think about, because, I might even ask them, so what kind of gear are you recording on? And I might ask them, what is your songwriting process? And what do you think about, why did you choose to modulate the key in this area? And, what I find is when people show up to interview with me, I don't send an intern down to get them in the lobby. I go down and get them. And I go down personally to shake their hand. And when we're going up on the elevator, I actually, have a conversation with them, both because I'm curious about them and any unanswered questions that I might have before we start the interview. But also, I want them to know, hey, I took the time to study you. I took the time to research you, and I know the fact that you grew up in this town. I know it was interesting that you went to college for 3 years, but you dropped out and took a chance on becoming an actor, or went to L.A. and struggled for 2 years, and then finally you got your big role. They appreciate that stuff, and what happens, you can just see it on their face. They start to open up when they sit in that chair because that level of trust starts to go up. And I think people that I really admire, like Oprah Winfrey and some of the more, really hardcore, like traditional journalists like Tom Brokaw and people like that, they tend to, or Diane Sawyer, somebody who has a level of compassion that I think makes people feel comfortable when they sit in her chair. And that's what I try to do. I try to study people like that. I study Charlie Rose as well.
Yeah, well, Charlie Rose, he's definitely high up there as far as interviewers go. But I think what you do is that you make a connection. And
yeah, hopefully, not all the time. Sometimes you do these interviews, particularly with athletes, because I think as journalists we have to accept some of the responsibility because we don't always ask. After a guy's played a game, right? We just ask, so how do you feel about your performance? And what is the guy going to say? He's going to say, well, we went out there and played hard and just wasn't in the cards today. They outplayed us and we got to come back tomorrow, and that doesn't, when I hear those things and someone sits in my chair, I cringe. I kind of lose my momentum and what I need to be able to do good because this person is speaking to me in sound bites. And so I have to ask myself, what am I doing to make this person feel like they can't talk to me? And part of it is because they give so many interviews. And so that's the challenge of a journalist, to try to get that person all out of that zone. And so that's why trust is such a big deal. And that's why when I talk to a publicist, I tell them, feel free to share my work with this person. Feel free to let this person see the work I've done, because you want that person to come into the chair having some background and saying, okay, yeah, this guy is, this guy likes the long interviews, this guy wants me to speak, but more importantly, this guy is in touch with the culture.
Right.
And what I mean by that is, I like the young people, and I also don't think that the world, I appreciate the diversity in the world. And so, I can see the ingenuity in someone like 50 Cent. I can see the ingenuity in someone like Sean Combs or, and when you see Mark Wahlberg. And when you see these people and what they've been able to accomplish in business, and you give them the credence and the respect a lot of times to spend the time to study actually what they accomplished, it opens up a whole world that isn't being covered by the traditional media. And so it's kind of funny sometimes to hear some people interview some of these guys, because you can tell that they haven't necessarily been part of the culture as an observer. They're just going based on, what they think about someone. And with the kids especially, the kids are kind of, insulted by that. They're more likely to turn the video off, because if you sit down with someone like a Sean Combs and you say something like, oh, so, how did you get to where you are? I mean, there are certain things that are already in the public's conscience that the public already knows, because this guy is a pop culture icon.
Right.
And just because you haven't been paying attention to the pop culture doesn't mean that everybody should stop and allow you to play catch up. And so it's partially about the respect that we have for everybody in the world, and to understand that there are people in this country that have come up from the fringes of society, people that have been disruptors. They may not have written a Harvard thesis. They may have had trouble early in their life, but somewhere along the way, they figured out to be shrewd business people. They figured out how to use street smarts or how to use their charisma and get on track and become successful business people. And I'm really fascinated by those people. That's why I don't ever want to write anybody off or to ever underestimate people until I really I feel like I need to sit down and find out the key to their success. And you find these incredible stories when you do.
Well, you're kind of like pulling a little, pulling the layers off. Okay, and getting to the core of them, because again, a lot of celebrity sports stars, they'll be interviewed and they feel like a number, and you're doing something different than that, and I appreciate that, because you're allowing them to tell their story. You open the door.
Yeah. There's, and it's funny because so many of these people, they may have accomplished all of these incredible feats, but they have these areas where they're still very insecure, and sometimes it could be, the relationship with their parents or coming up in a single parent home, or it can be that, people at home, never. I'll give you an example. There's a singer, I can't remember who it was, but there was a singer that I interviewed that was from Europe, and had built this huge following in Europe, but gotten dropped from the record company, and then was picked up by a company in the United States. And just knowing everything that I picked up about how stars are made, I said, well, why don't you go back and also do some performances in your home, your home country, and why don't you, do some viral videos, because you got a big following there. You could probably get, 150,000 hits just based on the audience that you had already built. And this person was like, you know what, I'm not going to do that because I had a bad experience with the record company, and, they didn't support me there. And that person had like almost a chip on their shoulder about the difficult period that they had in that country, and really was missing out on the broader opportunity to tap in and to provide music for people who loved their music and supported them from the beginning.
Right. Well, with someone like that and that type of story, the only thing that comes to mind to me is boo-hoo. Okay, you got shunned by a record company, but what does that have to do with your fans? You have to be there.
Well,
for
right,
them.
and that's true. But in order to be, it's kind of crazy, because in order to be a celebrity, a lot of people, they have to be narcissistic, or they have to have these outsized personalities in order to be a celebrity. Michael Jordan is one of the examples of a guy who, when he was playing basketball, he had one of the highest scored games in his career, and he admitted when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame that in one of those games he actually missed a dunk on purpose, because he wanted the opposing team's fans to boo him, because that's what he knew motivated him, people doubting him. Mm-hmm. And so the psychology, everybody has different psychology, and the psychology of a lot of these famous people has a lot to do with, like being doubted and not being accepted, and coming from the fringes and wanting to prove people wrong, and wanting to have the right to be who they really are and have it be accepted broadly. Lady Gaga is a person who said that she wasn't always considered an attractive person, and still doesn't consider herself an attractive person conventionally. But, hey, what did she do with that? She took it and used it to her advantage and said, I'm going to be who I am. Mike Jones, another one, this rapper, he had a song called, he was known for saying, Mike Jones, who? Mike Jones, who? And I was always wondering, I always asked him, how did you come up with that, where you say Mike Jones who in every song? And he said, you know what, when I was on the streets promoting my records, I would go up to people, and I would say, hey, do you want to buy my CD? And they would say, who are you? And then he would say, oh, my name is Mike Jones. And he was all, motivated and feeling good about his project. And then they would say, who? And when they would say, who, feel so discouraged. And he said he went home and he talked to his grandmother. And she said, what's going on? You seem like you're down. And he said, well, when I get out here, man, it's really hard because people, they don't want to accept because I'm not known. I'm not a known quantity. And when I give them my CD, they say, who? And she told him, use that. Take that perceived weakness and turn that into a strength. You put that into your music, and he did, and he blew up as a result of that.
Well, you go, Grandma. You always need that one person to kind of put you thinking in the right direction. Everyone has that person in their life, I think. Or if they don't, they should.
That's, man, you just touched on like a really important factor. I can tell you that at every critical stage in my life, I've always had somebody that really, believed and gave selflessly and said, you know what, man, this might be a difficult period for you, but, stay humble, stay in prayer. You have the talent. You have the talent to move forward. I mean, look, the media business is a very, very competitive business. It's a rough business. When I got into television initially, I really wasn't ready for it. I was very nervous when I would go on the air. It took me a while to get comfortable. When you see a lot of these people that are celebrities or television show hosts, a lot of them have 3 and 4 shows that fail and get taken off the air because of poor ratings before they actually become successful and have that wildly successful show. Now, if you're blessed enough to get another chance, then great. But if you look at each one of these celebrities, somewhere in there, there's some level of failure in the beginning. If you look at Katy Perry, she was just a person that was out in California trying to make it. She had a lot of setbacks, but she just refused to accept defeat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you forget about celebrities. Let's just talk about history. Thomas Edison. You're going to fail more times than you succeed, but those successes are going to be oh so glorious. That changed everything. You can go to Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. You can go to any influential person in the history of the world, for that matter, and you'll always find that they failed more than they succeeded.
You're right, and therein lies the value, I believe, in what I'm trying to do with the business of celebrity, is to show that these people are the same, that they too have these stories about their lives and stories about their businesses and their brands and how they built them up, and they're just no different than any of us. And people ask me, do you get nervous when you interview certain celebrities because you're like dealing with a famous person? And you know what? I can say I really don't, because I see the people that I interview are they tend to be authentic people. And the reason I say that is because they say, you know what, they've taken the time to really consider my pitch. And because I'm not Today Show and I'm not Good Morning America, but they've taken the time to watch my videos and say, wow, you know what, I like this guy. He may not have 7.5 million viewers a day, but I'm going to go and sit in his chair. And so as a result of that, those people, a lot of them are like really down-to-earth people as from the beginning, and so it makes it very easy to interview them. I have had some experiences where people have not been, they just haven't been cool people. you try to get a conversation going with them, and they give you one-word answers or whatever. But usually I find that those are people that are really just beginning to come into success. Or maybe they've had about a year of success and it's gone to their head and they don't really know how to handle it. But I find that the superstars, the Lionel Richies, the Gene Simmons, a lot of these kinds of people, Paul Stanley of KISS, he's a phenomenal interview. A lot of these people are approachable because they understand the interdependence between the media and their celebrity. Paris Hilton is a person who's very, very aware of that fact, and that's why she's had so much success in her life, whether you really like her or not, or she's somebody that really understands the media, and particularly the paparazzi. She does not run from the paparazzi. You notice that?
Yep.
She doesn't run over them with their car. She doesn't treat them like you're annoying me. She embraces them and she takes pictures, and she realizes that when they take pictures of her, they put all of these images on the internet, and when those pictures get forwarded, it reinforces her brand. And so these people may just be people that are intuitively aware of the value that the media provides to them, and they are aware that they cannot afford to alienate the media. And so, they're savvy, and when they sit down in their chair, they're willing to show a side of themselves that's real.
Well, they understand the marketing principles, and they understand that, without reaching the masses, you're really not, your brand kind of loses a lot of its luster. And that's the reality of the situation with that, and I think that like a Paris Hilton and people, Lady Gaga, they're doing it themselves, but they also have smart people around them telling them, hey, this is what you need to do in order to get to where you need to get to and get your brand where you need to get to, so you can, monetize it a little more. I don't think they're actually doing it solo.
Oh, you better believe they're not. I'll give you an example. Behind Lady Gaga is a guy named Troy Harder, who, basically carried credit for Will Smith and also worked for Sean Combs, as a young guy coming up in the music industry, and learned a lot from those people. And then the fact that he himself is brilliant really helped Lady Gaga. And a lot of people don't know this guy, but he's just, he's a smart business person. And then the people that broke her into India, they have a website called DesiHits.com, Ranjan and Beth, and they work with celebrities all over the world, not just in the United States, but in India. They work with Priyanka Chopra, who is one of the biggest Bollywood stars. And they specifically have the niche of being able to know that market and to teach celebrities how to break in and how to sell records in India. And if you don't know that market, then you can't penetrate that market because it's not like the U.S. market. And they're very brilliant. And so Lady Gaga becoming a huge brand is about that, about being able to learn from someone like Jimmy Iovine at Interscope Records, and to respond, not just to learn from those people, but to respond to what they're saying and to be able to take direction, and then to have some level of independence yourself and being able to say, hey, you know what, I developed my gut, and my gut is telling me that we should not associate with that brand, or my gut is telling me that, we should do a deal where Amazon sells my CD for 99 cents to increase the likelihood that we reach 1 million units the first week my album comes out, because if I don't reach 1 million units, it could really, really hurt my brand, because my first album was so highly successful. Those are shrewd people that have put a lot of thought into marketing, and they're marketing people, and they're not really any different than the Apples of the world or the Googles of the world, or the innovative people that are saying, let's figure out a way to really touch people and get this brand in every home in America.
And I think that's a key word, innovative. Even in you're an author of a book, A New Bow Nation. Okay, and you have innovative people that's you're kind of like pointing at. And,
it is, and we didn't put the book out, but we did do we ended up doing a documentary about it, New Bows, The Rise of America's New Black Overclass on CNBC, and that was really about a lot of the innovative people that have been overlooked, African-American young people that have, done pretty well with their brands at a young age. And one person that I highlighted in that was LeBron James. This was before LeBron James decided to go to Miami. And one of the things, I was the first person to really report on television LeBron's ability to see that he wanted to have the people in his camp, the young African-American men, some of them that he grew up with, to handle one piece of his marketing and to develop him into, a brand. He put a lot of trust in them, and I talked to them a lot about the challenge of being underestimated because they didn't necessarily look like they were traditional business people. But you know what? Some of these brands are better if they're not developed by a traditional business person, because the traditional business people are not always in touch with, once again, what the people really want. It's not always about marketing theory. And so talking to a guy named this guy, Birdman, Brian Williams, who is at the head, him and his brother own Cash Money Records, and they've got Lil Wayne, and they've got Nicki Minaj and Drake, and the top people in the music industry right now. These guys came from New Orleans from nothing, and they built this into a multi-million-dollar company. Once again, Brian Williams has $500,000 of platinum in his mouth. Okay, and this is not a guy that looks like he's going to be on Wall Street. But what's interesting about him is I asked him, did you ever consider just getting a job in corporate America? And he said, no, I never even considered working for anybody else. When I was a kid, my dad owned a bar, and I saw how he was. I saw that he had an entrepreneurial spirit, and I just wanted to be an entrepreneur, and I never thought of being anything else. And guess what? He's damn good at it. He's run one of the biggest record companies in the world, independent record companies in the world. And guess what? A lot of people really that don't know the culture don't even know about this guy. And this guy sold millions of records.
Well, I mean,
actually billions of records.
But, someone like that, this is a guy behind the scenes that actually makes the magic. And you always have the guys behind the scenes making the magic. And just him, at an early age, he learned an important lesson. Be a leader, not a follower. And he
right, yeah.
Yeah, and that's
exactly be a leader, not a follower, but... And, leaders are not always, a lot of times it takes a while to figure that out. Leaders can be reluctant leaders. You see that a lot on sports teams. Some of these celebrities, Justin Tuck, which is a really good example of a guy who, he's a defensive end for the New York Giants, and I just interviewed him a couple weeks ago. He started out the Super Bowl winning season with one of the worst performances that he ever had put up. He had one game for the first time in his whole career that he didn't even get a tackle. And then it took him a while to come back, and over time, at one point of the season, he had written off the chances that his team would even make the playoffs. Well, lo and behold, they made the Super Bowl, and they won it. But this is a guy that's not really always needing to be out front, and over time the team really selected him. Another kid is a guy named Russell Wilson, who was just drafted in the second round by the Seattle Seahawks. He's like 5'10", 205 pounds. He's about 4 inches shorter than your average quarterback in the NFL, and maybe about 15 pounds lighter. Everybody thought that this kid would never make it as an NFL quarterback and that he would be drafted in the 4th round, even though he put up phenomenal numbers for the University of Wisconsin and took them to the Big Ten championship and took them to the Rose Bowl. It still wasn't enough because he didn't fit the mold physically, people thought, that a quarterback should fit. But the Seahawks took a chance on him, and now some people have jumped on board, and they're saying that he could be the best rookie quarterback to ever be in the NFL. And so for me, what is my job? To find out what kind of drives you when all these people are doubting you. What drives you when you've just thrown a touchdown pass and then you go on the sidelines and you see your team give up an interception and they run it back, and now you're back down again, because this is a guy who is known for playing under pressure. And you know what he told me when I asked him how he deals with the pressure so well? You know what he told me?
What did he tell you?
He told me, my dad died. And the fact that his father's death and everything that he had gone through, when his father died and before his father died, and developing faith, and, feeling that the fact that he had faith gave him a calm that, normal people people without faith, he felt, don't usually have, because they're, they don't believe in themselves. And so for him, that was how he felt, that his faith was something that would make him sit on the sideline and just say, okay, all right, no, I can do this. I know I can do this, and I want to just go out here and do it. There's no need in crying. There's no need in being afraid. I'm just going to go out here and throw a touchdown pass. And, those are people that really make it. The talkers never make it. It's the doers that make it.
And these
people.
But these are the same people that inspire people. As I mentioned earlier, they inspire people to say, wow, you know what? Yeah, I can.
Yeah, and you really need to believe that. And you touched on a really good point earlier where you talked about having people that believe in you, too. I do think it's important to have one or two people that you trust, that tell you, hey, you can make it. I used to have I had teachers when I was a kid growing up. Well, I'll tell you this. When I was in sixth grade, I was playing around so much in school with my friends and everything in sixth grade that I got a D in English. I got a D in English and then went on to become a journalist.
Yeah.
But if you had gone to my teachers that saw me in that period of my life when I was a sixth grader and school wasn't a priority for me because I didn't understand how it really fit in to the equation for success in my life, and I was really more wanting to be accepted by my friends and thinking that it was cool to not pay attention in class and all those things. If you went to those teachers and said, this kid is going to be, a Wall Street Journal reporter, he's going to have over a decade career of writing and working in the press and communicating, they might not believe me. But then again, there was always that one teacher that said, you know what, Lee, I know you're better than this. And I know your parents. And if you don't get it together, I'm going to tell them. Because you're going to be more than what people are expecting you to be. And that kind of thing, as a black kid growing up in Minnesota in a very non-diverse setting, were the things that I needed to hear. And over time, those few people that really spent the time to influence me and to make sure that I was nurtured and everything, those are the people, that was all I needed. Those were the drive I needed. I needed role models, and I needed good peers too. I needed those kids that said, hey man, no man, let's pay attention, man. Let's get it together. And that's what I try to impart to the young people. You're never defeated until you give up on yourself. And You know what I'm saying?
Oh.
Most of the times, when people mess up, they don't have to worry about other people. The biggest enemies a lot of times are ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
If we can get on our own side, we can be successful.
Well, I love hearing the story about the teacher and pushing you because, as I said earlier, you just need that one person to believe in you, that one person to take a boot to you for you to wake up and understand that, hey, you know what, this is your life, one time around, and you have to make the most of it. You have to live up to your potential, and that's what happened with you. And I think that's fantastic. And you're telling the stories from other people that have done the same.
One thing that happened to me, too, and I will tell you this, is when you see me on television, a lot of times, you see me wearing the American flag on my lapel. And I'll tell you, I've been asked, people have asked me in the past, the people that know me have asked me, man, why are you wearing the flag? And they kind of look at wearing the flag like kind of almost a nerdy thing or something that you're not supposed to do, or, just kind of question wearing the flag because I guess people are expected to see, older people like Lou Dobbs or, people that are really conservative on TV wearing the flag. Mm-hmm. But let me tell you something. When I was a young person, I learned about my family history. It was something that I didn't even know. And when I learned about my family history, and I really sat back and thought about my grandfather who worked on the railroad and then also worked another job as a janitor at a department store for 25 years so that, he could buy a home, and he was in the union and he could buy a home and really set it up for future generations of the family to be able to go to college and to be able to do these things. And he told me about my great-great-great-grandfather, Isaac Blakey, who was a slave in Mississippi back when, in the Civil War time frame, he actually ran away and enlisted in the Civil War. And what's interesting about that is my family has two different names. Blakey and White are the last names from that side of the family. We're all related, but we have two different names because when Isaac Blakey was on the plantation, his slave master's mother or daughter got married to a guy. And when she got married, the slave master gave his daughter and her new husband my grandfather and my grandfather's mother as a wedding gift. So now they were their property. And when he went into the war and enlisted in the Union Army to fight for his freedom, he used the slave master, his second slave master's name. And that made it so my family, for the rest of our lives, would have two different last names. When he got out of the Civil War, he actually went home and found his brothers and sisters that he was separated from when he was given away as a wedding gift, and he reunited with them, and he ended up having a family and becoming a farmer and building a farm. But then he also positioned all of his kids to be successful. And so for all I'm saying is knowing that I come from that rich history where people really didn't even have an opportunity for education, and they didn't have the opportunities that I have. How could I not go on to try and be a successful journalist? When you know your history and you know the sacrifices that people made before you, you take life a lot more seriously. And I'll tell you one thing, I didn't really start to take life seriously until I started studying my own history and studying the history of the black people.
Mm-hmm. And it was a wake-up call for you in a way.
Yeah, and it's not just black people, but it's, a lot of people in America. We have this great melting pot, but we have all of these immigrants. And these immigrant stories, are very powerful. They're very powerful to think that, people can come from being persecuted to actually come into the United States and having success, and they're shut out from society's mainstream from the beginning. So they start their own businesses supported by their own people. And then down the line, that second or third generation, those are the people that are admitted into the Ivy League schools and things like that. And see, that's what the American dream affords the opportunity, is to, in its purest sense, that that's what it's supposed to be, that we're supposed to give people opportunities. And if they seize those opportunities and they live an honest life, they can get ahead and be successful. And I really believe that you're cheating yourself when you really don't try. Mm-hmm. And that's what knowing your history teaches you. So it's not really a simple answer. There's not a simple answer for how I ended up where I am in life. Mm-hmm. But I think that one of the things is studying other people and their success has helped me figure out my own strategies for success.
Well, I think, you just summed it up, as far as your background goes and why you do the things you do. And I have to thank you for doing the things you do, because you bring a lot of things to light, whether it be on CNBC, whether it be doing your interviews or doing whatever you're doing. Because I know that over time, your reach is going to get greater and greater and greater, and you're going to have some more amazing people speaking to you, and you're going to be telling the stories that, maybe some people are afraid to tell or afraid to ask, but you're not. You're doing that, Lee, and I thank you for that.
Thank you, and I thank you for the opportunity for what you're doing. I mean, to even find me, you're the first guy that's really interviewed me specifically about this new business of celebrity thing, and I've been really doing it for like 2 years. So for you to see that and to believe in that means something to me. I appreciate that. I appreciate all of the people that take the time to watch my work and to Google me and look up my videos and to friend me on Facebook and Twitter, because we're on an on-demand culture now. Mm-hmm. And what that means is when people follow you, that's an indication that they want to see your product and they want to see what you create. And for me, that's my core audience. The people that join my email list, that's my core audience that I never want to alienate, because those are the people that from the beginning appreciate what I'm doing. And those are the audience, that's the people that I'm trying to speak with right now, and then I can grow my audience from there.
Well, I think it's going to continue to grow, and look, you have my support 1,000%. And again, I just see what you're doing just growing, and as more people get to hear the interviews, and you bring in more people to you, as I said before, it's just going to be a snowball effect, and it's for the better. And you inspire people with these interviews, and especially the youth, and how you actually put it together to target them. Fantastic. Lee, let me ask you, maybe you want to let our listeners know how they can follow you, website, what information can you give them so they can follow what you're doing?
Oh, thank you very much. Sure. Well, I can be found at Twitter, so it's at Lee Hawkins, ampersand sign, just the name Lee Hawkins, LeeHawkins. I also have a Facebook page on Google, so if you just Google Lee Hawkins, you'll see my Facebook page. And if you do that and you send me your email address, I'll add you on my email to get an early look at my videos. I usually put out 1 or 2 celebrity interviews a week, and I try to get them to my fans before I put them out on social media. I put them out to my email list. So that's how you can get me. And if you want to hear my music, just go on iTunes and type in Lee Hawkins. What's fascinating about things now in the information economy is that all you need is a name. Mm-hmm. You could have business cards printed up that just say your name on them, and not even your email address or your number. And people can figure out how to find you.
Oh, yeah.
All they have to do is just type your name into Google.
Information age, my friend, information age. And, again, for our listeners, follow Lee Hawkins. Go to Twitter, at Lee Hawkins. Follow him. Follow this guy's career. Go on YouTube. Go online. Find out more about him, because you're going to hear more and more about him as the weeks and months and years go by, because this guy's the real deal. Lee, I want to thank you for coming on the UCW radio show. This was awesome. We took the time to touch on a lot of things, and I think we're going to have you on another time, because I think we just scratched the surface with you, my man. I think we have a lot more to go.
Oh, man. Well, God bless you, and I thank you for the opportunity to be on the show, and I would love to be a guest anytime you want. So you keep up the good work, my man.
Thanks, Lee. I appreciate it. And we're gonna leave everyone with your song, "I Love You, Woman," and so they can hear your stuff on the UCW radio show. But we're gonna have you back on another time, Lee. Thank you again.
Okay, buddy. God bless you all.
Take care. Bye-bye.
showtime sequence.
What is your major malfunction?
So let it be written. So let it be done.
Ladies and gentlemen, my mother thanks you, my father thanks you, my sister thanks you, and I thank you.